Welcome to Redeeming Stories, where we hold space for real conversations about growth, healing, and the courage to change the patterns that no longer serve us. I am your host, Julie M. Lane, and today's guest is Dustin Payne. He's a life and relationship coach who helps people move beyond fear, people pleasing, and self limiting beliefs into deeper connections and authentic living. Dustin's work is grounded in the truth that the barriers we face, the ones that often show up as emotional walls, unspoken expectations, or the constant need to keep everyone else happy, are not the end of the story. They become the very soil where transformation begins. And through his own journey, Dustin has discovered how our early experiences and learned patterns shape the way we relate to others, and how our awareness and honesty can lead us to healthier, more compassionate relationships. In this episode today, we'll explore what it looks like to set boundaries without guilt, to move from fear to freedom, and to discover who we are beneath the need for approval. This is Redeeming Stories, and today we're talking about people pleasing, barriers, and breakthroughs. So, Dustin, welcome.
Thank you. That was a great introduction.
Oh, thank you. You mind sharing just a bit about yourself before we dive deeper into our content today?
Yeah, so I I'm a father. I live in Northern California on the coast, in the Humboldt County and Eureka area, kind of nestled between the ocean and the redwoods. So that's a really great place to raise a kiddo. But yeah, I've just been on my own journey for a very long time, which I'm sure we'll get into, and then just been really focusing on on the coaching and trying to help people with their transformations over the past three and a half years.
Oh,
So
thank you. I'm a native Californian, and of course, that part of our state is absolutely gorgeous. I'm a bit envious of you living up there. You work with people to cultivate healthier relationships in every area of their life.
right.
Can you walk us through a defining moment when you recognize this was your calling?
Well, I guess it when I was trying to figure out how I wanted to help people. I mean, I had a much bigger mission at one point, and I still feel passionate about my original mission, but which is to help transform society. So we're all living in a healthier environment. However, I had to really start kind of drilling down and figuring out like, well, what is going to be my thing that I really want to help people with? And at this point, it's brought me to people pleasing, learning how to set boundaries. That can always change. There can always be pivots. However, it will always, regardless of where I end up, there it will always be part of that bigger mission. And the reason I think I'm answering your question. The reason I'm where I'm at with people pleasing is because I really had to look at. I knew that my target audience was me, so I was really looking at like what were the things that I've had to take a hard look at and work on myself. So, yeah.
So, do you think those were rooted in a childhood experience or an early trauma? And
Absolutely. So I think everybody's got that happening, and then I think there's some sort of trigger that happens when we're a child, and then it kind of, well, it just kind of continues from there. And there's sort of these various ways that we cope. Sometimes we're not even aware of it. I wasn't really aware of any of this until I was in my 40s. I mean, I definitely knew I felt a certain way, but I wasn't aware of like childhood trauma or anything like that. And then for me personally, I had like a situation where my parents got separated when I was around 4 years old, and my dad moved. Kind of was my primary caretaker towards the end of that, and then he ended up moving to another state, And so like very quickly I was like taken out of my childhood home, put into a new home with my mom and my stepfather. My father was suddenly just gone, and of course they didn't keep me from him, but I was he was visiting as he was transitioning from California to Idaho, and there was this kind of this that I didn't understand what was going on. And then he would visit me, and but he would leave because he was still moving. And that's when it like that's when it hit me. Like it wasn't, I don't think it was that initial like separation because I didn't understand what it was, but then it was when I saw him again, and it was like there's that person that means everything to me, and then he just was gone again, like after like a weekend or something. And then I started this whole back and forth thing with them. I would be on an airplane like twice a year, going back and forth and going from one school to the other. And
Oh, wow.
that, yeah, that pattern of me leaving my dad was repeated over and over and over again. So it became this thing where it was the trauma was it kept getting, I don't know, experienced over and over again. And so just all of that, I mean that's just the story, a little bit of it, but through that I developed this kind of this people pleasing because I feel like there was this fear of abandonment,
Hmm.
and then probably something even deeper than that. But the fear of abandonment, like if I can make sure that the people around me were happy, I wouldn't be abandoned, right? I didn't think that rationally, but I think if I could keep everyone happy around me, then there wasn't that fear of losing them, I guess. It's the easiest way to say it.
No, I think I can relate to that in my own story of trying not to rock the boat and keep everybody
Right.
happy. I think for me, it wasn't so much about abandonment, but it was the fear of just upsetting people and having a uncomfortable situation within the home.
Yeah.
It was kind of my job. And so when I think about that in my own journey, I've reflected on how that experience as a child translated into patterns in my adult life. Can you
Hmm.
talk a little
Yeah.
bit about how you see that, maybe for yourself or for the people that you work with?
Well, yeah, the patterns definitely repeat. I think I mean, I just know that there's, I call the umbrella people pleasing, or I like to always say people pleasing slash manipulation, but there's all these things that we do underneath that, and a lot of people are not even aware that they think people pleasing is a good thing, like I'm doing something good for people, but that, I mean, it's all kind of just it's a there's a misunderstanding. I always like to say that when it comes to people, well, I'm getting off the subject. As far as like the patterns throughout my life, I mean, definitely, I would do things like I would chameleon myself, where I would try to fit in with whatever group I was. I mean, I was hanging out with, or I would overgive. I would. There was just so many things. I would try to fit in with crowds that I didn't belong with. I would go against what I felt in my gut felt right. I would try to make sure that everyone else was happy around me, like even the simple things like ordering food and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, there's just so much I can't think about, like I can't think of it all right now, but it carries on, and there's definitely, if you're not awake to it, which is like what I was kind of alluding to before, like what you're doing, then there, if without that awareness, it appears and feels like it's something else. Like
Hmm.
I just my it's nothing changed until I started having the awareness. But I mean, back to what I was saying earlier, is like if you're doing something for someone and you're just doing it because it brings you joy and nothing comes up for you about it, you're not like silently upset later, or you're not awake in the middle of the night because you need to try to say something to someone but you don't know how to, then you're not people pleasing. But if you are doing things for others and there's some sort of resentment, then you know that what you're doing is people pleasing. And I always say, like, resentment's not a bad thing. It's like our friend. It's telling us
Mhm.
that we have we have to fix something, because it's just going it's it's not, yeah, it's just going to be a bad situation for everyone involved, and the other people that are involved may not even be aware of any of this. So it's not really their fault or their responsibility. It's our responsibility. I mean, I'm kind of
Absolutely.
all
Yeah.
over the place right now.
No, no, you're fine. No, and you're absolutely right. Unless we're being verbally abused, physically abused, and doing things to survive,
Yeah,
that's very different than people pleasing out of our hearts.
yeah. And I mean, you touch on something really important there. There are all different kinds of situations. There are situations that can be completely innocent, and there's just a person that's people pleasing, and quite literally all that needs to happen is re-education with the family. Like, there, and of course there may be defensiveness and stuff like that, and there's going to be this kind of transition period. But there's the other extreme and everything in between, where it's a people pleaser that is matched with a narcissist, or a people pleaser that's matched with some sort of, I mean, even people pleasing itself can be a form of narcissism. So it's a very, there's a whole rainbow, a whole spectrum there, and there does come a very fine line where we have to, or not a fine, maybe a definitive line, like where we have to realize, like, I've done everything I can on my part, and this other person isn't going to meet me there, and that's a sign that I need to exit. And it's not there, going back to, like, when I said that it's our responsibility when we set boundaries, when we discuss these things with people, it's not up to the other person to follow through. I mean, we hope that they'll follow through, that they'll stop doing the thing that we don't want them to do. But it's more our responsibility that we're stopping what we're doing, the people pleasing behaviors, and we're setting a boundary, and that boundary is for us. So if, like, not you can't drink around me, but if drinking is happening around me, I will I will leave, whatever. Like, I won't be a part of that. Like, I'm not going to go to that party or whatever. That kind of thing. The boundaries are for us, the people pleasers.
Absolutely.
It's kind of,
So,
yeah, it's
yeah, so when someone comes to you and wants help with this, and they want to stop being a people pleaser because they know it's not good for their mental health, it's
yeah.
detrimental to their mental health, and they don't know how to set boundaries, or they do, but they don't trust that they'll be respected. What's your first step when they sit down and ask you for help?
Well, so long before I even went into the whole, I mean, people pleasing and boundaries was just something I would mention once in a while. I was kind of all over the place. But long before I went into just that specifically, where I'm at now, I had a system that kind of just made sense to me after. It, when you're learning about coaching with people, there's all these systems that you walk people through, and whatever. But what I noticed when I was going through them was there was this kind of repeated thing that I saw that worked for me, like when I was coaching with other people or I was being coached, where I started putting kind of this thing together in my head, and that is now the system that I use when I walk somebody through anything. So if it's people pleasing, then I walk them through that. And I right now I call it the 5-step path to freedom. And essentially, I hope this answers your question. Basically, if somebody comes to me and they want to stop people pleasing and whatnot, if you're gonna work with me, right? I first there needs to be like a genuine, like, you can't work with people that are, it's kind of like leading a horse to water. Like, if they're not ready, if they don't want to do the work, if they, are just, if you as a coach become just another self-help book on the shelf that never gets implemented, then it's kind of a waste of both of our times. But the way we start out would be, and this is kind of what will set the tone of everything, and it's is the first step is vulnerability and authenticity. And so if you want to stop people pleasing, the first thing that I would need from you is like total vulnerability, and it's one and the same, authenticity and vulnerability. But it's kind of like going to a doctor and saying, I'm having all these problems, these stomach problems, and this and that, and it's like you reveal 90% of what's going on and what you're doing, but you're not revealing like the 10% that is the key element, the reason why you're experiencing what you're experiencing, because you've been eating this one thing and that's the thing that's making you sick, but for some reason you don't want to divulge that information because and I know this firsthand, this experience firsthand, like not divulging information to somebody who's trying to help me because that thing is my coping mechanism. That thing is the thing that makes me feel safe in the chaos of whatever it is. And so, but it's the one thing like if I reveal this, then it can be taken away from me. And then what would I do? Right? So if you're coming to me and you have something that you want to change with people pleasing, want to learn how to start setting firmer boundaries, that stuff needs to be revealed. And so that's just the first step. And I can get into the rest of it now if you like, or do you want to?
No, absolutely. Go
Okay.
for it.
Yeah. Sure. So once we do that, once we're authentic, we're vulnerable, starts this is where like the process of awareness starts happening. Like I said, like I think that a lot of people are functioning in life doing the best that they can because with what they know. And there's this where I know for me firsthand, I was unaware, completely unaware of what was going on. I thought I had, like, even though there was all this massive pain in my childhood, and I knew it was there, like I knew that I had experienced that. To me, like my parents were flawless. Like everything was just peachy. They're greatest people in the world. Like they could do no wrong. And it took an outside source to kind of bring that awareness to me, and then that was a very hard thing. I mean, depending on where you're at when we talk and we meet, some of these phases can be very difficult to navigate through. So bringing awareness is just extremely important in the sense that without the awareness, you're not able to change the thing that you're not aware of, basically, right? It's pretty simple. And then after that, the third step is acceptance. And the acceptance aspect of it is accepting that I'm aware of this situation that I'm in, and I accept that that's where I'm at. I'm not like where I want to be. I'm not how it used to be. And it's not accepting that there were these, you're not accepting it like, well, I'm in an abusive relationship. I guess I just have to accept that. That's just the way things are. That's not the part that you're accepting. You're accepting the fact that, oh, this is what I am experiencing right now. Like you're facing the facts. You're rooting yourself in reality. Like this is the situation I'm in. So acceptance is very important because with acceptance, then you can take accountability. And taking responsibility, taking ownership, accountability, whatever people want to call it, it's very important. It is the probably I'd hate to say that there's one thing that's more important than another thing, but our lives become completely transformed the moment we start taking accountability for them. And again, you're not accountable for the situation or what's happening to you, but you're accountable in the sense that, like, oh, I'm in control of my life. I get to make the decision of what I'm going to do to remove myself from this situation or change it or whatever it happens to be. So you can see like these steps work with anything in life. And it a little harder to go through it on your own. I'll get to that in a second. But with accountability, like I said, you're going to be able to move forward because now you're in charge. And then the last step is action, and action is massive. Action is a very big one. I have a whole framework for action as well, but I'm not even. I don't even teach that yet. But it's action is where you're taking all of that stuff and you're putting like okay, I'm going to start setting boundaries. I'm going to start exercise, whatever it is, the action is. And through each of the steps of action, it branches off because you're constantly relearning, you're constantly implementing, you're constantly going through all of those steps. So it's really anything is possible at that point. But yeah, I was saying something about like with when I was talking about accountability. I just wanted to say that. Well, we'll get to that. It's fine. I hope that answers your question.
It, it does. So, as we wrap up our time together,
Wow, that was quick.
I know it goes by fast, but still think about accountability. But as we wrap up our time together, as we're coming upon the holidays, how how do we balance ourselves as people pleasers with all of the holidays that we're coming into, and how do we hold ourselves accountable during that time?
That's a great question. Because everybody's holiday looks a little different, right? I think, how do we hold ourselves accountable? I think really, ultimately, if you're not working with someone and you just are working with yourself, you have to, in the best you can, because there's all this stuff that's happening externally and it's just driving us and it's pushing us and it's crazy, right? You have to bring it back in here. I always say like there's the three brains or whatever. You have your head, which is trying to think about like, oh my God, how do I handle all this? What do I do? And then you have your heart that is like very torn by the different directions that the brain's throwing at it, right? There's this like the heart is, they always say follow your heart, but the heart doesn't necessarily always know what's right for it, in the sense that there needs to be a referee. And so the referee between the head and the heart is the gut. The gut just, I mean, the gut is like that higher self that just kind of observes as you do everything and you act like a nutcake, whatever, just being silly. That part of that higher self is just kind of observing everything and watching your life and kind of doesn't have an opinion. It's just observing. That's the gut. The gut just is like, it knows. Like, no, I know that this is not, I'm not okay with this. So take all that chaos that's externalized, try to bring it back to the internalized part and go, what feels right for me? And then remember step one, being completely vulnerable and authentic with yourself. Let yourself be your own coach. And just know that if you're going against what the gut knows, if you're going against that in any sort of way, then you're going to have the friendly little reminder named resentment telling you that, hey, you're you're about to go somewhere you don't want to go. So just it's just a constant little like course correction. It seems like a lot, but you just keep bringing it back on track. And it takes awareness, but it's yeah, it's yeah, that's what I was gonna say about the self help book on the shelf. Like it's great to have, like you can do so much with what you read, but then when you get with a coach, there's suddenly this person who's not caught up in what you're caught up in, who's observing everything, and they're just that higher voice. They're kind of like going, hey, this is what I'm seeing. So the coach kind of what's the word, exponentially grows that self-help book, whereas like the group coaching just is like an exponential growth of the coach, because now you don't just have the coach, you have all those other people that are in the same boat as you. And so yeah, you just have to do your best and decide how important how important it is to you and where you want to be. So,
Great. Thank you, Dustin. I think that's that to me, like my gut is my accountability. It's
yeah, yeah,
um and as long as I listen to it. I did took me decades to
yeah.
start to listen to it, and it really does hold me accountable. But so as we close today's episode, I've been reflecting on what you've shared about the quiet power of self-honesty. And many of us learn early on to please others and to soothe the edges, to avoid conflict, and to um, be who we think we need to be in order to belong within community. And you shared some of those stories about your own journey and finding the places you needed to be where you did truly belong.
Right.
But somewhere along the way, that effort, to keep the peace is what has cost us our mental health. So the work of redemption is about coming home to ourselves, which you were just talking about,
Yeah.
constantly coming back to our gut and releasing that need to perform, recovering our own voices, and avoiding connection to come from, or allowing connection to come from authenticity rather than approval. And Dustin, you reminded us today, when we stop people pleasing, we don't lose love. We create space for real love to exist, which is honest, mutual, and free. And it's from the heart. So, Dustin, thank you for the truth and compassion you brought to this conversation. And thank you to all of our listeners for joining us in it. And so until next time, may you find the courage to live through truth, the strength to honor your own boundaries, and the grace to believe that you are already enough. I am Julie M. Lane, and this is Redeeming Stories.